Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to welcome you to the Zoning Board of Appeals for the City of Somerville. It is Wednesday, September the 1st, 2020, and it is 6:03. Pursuant to Chapter 20 of the Acts of 2021, this meeting of the Zoning Board of Appeals will be conducted via remote participation. An audio recording of these proceedings will be available upon request to planning@somervillema.gov. Tonight, under general business, our first procedure is approval of minutes. Mr. Clerk, could we have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, this is Charlotte speaking. If I may, there is a typo in the June 23rd minutes about who made the motion. I believe it was Chair Fontano, not Chair Severino. So we can update that once the minutes are adopted.
Thank you. Any other corrections from the board? Does anybody see anything that they thought wasn't proper, or do you want to change? Okay, seeing none, may I have let's have a motion. Mr. Safdie.
Madam Chair, I make a motion to approve the minutes of June 23rd, 2021 and August 18th, 2021 as presented, with the exception of the one edit which Charlotte just mentioned to the June 23rd minutes.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Elaine Severino. All in favor, please say aye. Josh Safdie.
Aye.
Elaine Severino.
Aye.
Ann Brockelman.
Aye.
And Catherine Garavaglia.
Aye.
And Susan Fontano. Aye. Let the record show it was unanimous, 5 voting. Thank you. Next on the agenda, under the public hearings, is 27 Loring Street. Mr. Safdie, could you handle that, please?
Madam Chair, I understand that the applicants for 27 Loring Street have requested a continuance to our next regularly scheduled meeting of September 22nd, 2021. I make a motion we approve that request.
Second.
Seconded by Elaine Severino. All in favor? I understand that they're still going through a process, and this is really due call for this, so I'm glad you all seconded. Josh Safdie, please.
Aye.
Elaine Severino.
Aye.
Catherine Garavaglia.
Aye.
And Ann Brockelman.
Aye.
And Susan Fontano. Aye. Let the record show it was unanimous, 5 in the affirmative, to continue 27 Loring Street until our next meeting of September 22nd. Next on the agenda is 13 Alpine Street. Is everybody here from Alpine?
Madam Chair, this is Charlotte speaking. I am unmuting Adam Dash and Evan Stellman from 13 Alpine. Adam and Evan, let me know if anyone else should be unmuted.
Thank you, Charlotte. Yeah, this is Adam Dash, 48 Grove Street in Somerville. I'm representing the applicant Opry Ski LLC. There are several members of Opry Ski here tonight. There's no reason to, I guess, unmute them at the moment, but they could. Or if yes, you suppose you could. Keith Glover, I think, is going to be doing the speaking for the group as he did last time. Attila Javor and Jill Javor, I believe, are also on the call, along with, as you said, with Evan Stillman of Calsa Architects. You may recall we saw you on August 4th regarding revisions to the plans approved by the ZBA in 2017 in case 2016-75. As a reminder, just my client, the Opry Ski, was not involved with the property when the ZBA first approved it, nor when the construction began, but the construction is ongoing still. There are a series of revisions that are being sought, and we discussed them at the August 4th meeting. The zoning board, and obviously correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding was the zoning board was okay with all of them. They were just concerned about really 2. One was the walkout roof access stair tower, and the other was the size of the area on the top roof around the mechanicals and how the railings were laid out, and then I guess the planters up there as well. So we discussed last time some ideas such as breaking up that elevator roof access stair tower visually, bringing in the railings closer to the mechanicals, and removing the planters from the top roof, not the deck part where the balconies are, but the actual top roof, the top of the 4th floor. So Evan has some plans that were submitted. You've probably seen that do that, but Evan, you want to walk through with the board the changes since August 4th?
Do you mind if I share?
Can Evan
Sorry.
share his screen? Yeah.
Yeah, I promoted him. This is Charlotte speaking. I promoted him to panelist and it temporarily muted him. But Evan, you should be able to share your screen now.
It says that I'm sharing my screen. Can you see the plans here?
Yeah, they're on, Evan. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm starting with the front elevation. I'd just like to draw your attention to the head house at the top right. We did adjust the shape of this since the last time that we spoke to you. This is what you had previously seen. It was squared off at the top, and now we turned the roof line to match the stair below. So it kind of creates a smaller visual effect. Up on the main roof here, we also reduced the extent of the railings. So it only extends 10 feet beyond the walking path on the front, and then at the rear, it extends 10 feet beyond where the condensers are. We do not intend on putting planters on this main roof up here, primarily because there would be nothing to hold them from falling to the roofs below. We also, this plan showing an adjustment to the planters at the 2nd floor terrace. If the board allows, I do have some images of the property that I took last week. I don't want to spring new information on you, but I think it would be beneficial to show what the planters look like after I walk through the plans. Moving on to the right side of the structure here, where the elevator is and the stair tower. We did carry the board and batten around the stair tower, so it would create one massing here rather than breaking it up with the green screen. This is what we're proposing now at the right side, and then this is what we had showed you before. Do you mind if I show you images that I took last week?
What do you want? I can't quite, I hope you're speaking right into the phone or whatever, because I can, it's gravelly when you're speaking. We're looking
Yes,
at AV1 right now.
Madam Chair,
And-
I guess I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, Adam, yes?
I was going to say that Evan wants to show you some photographs he took, which he thinks might be easier to see than the drawings. If you want to see, he's just asking if you want to see the photographs he took.
Sure, any tool you want to use is great.
Okay, sure.
Thank you.
So this is a picture that I took last Friday. We're planning on wrapping this material onto the elevator shaft, and then up here at the front terrace, we're proposing some planters to be spaced apart up there. Moving up to the roof, this is what is currently built. We understand that this is an ongoing conversation, and this might not necessarily be final, but the elevator overrun is at an elevation of 55 feet. This corner to the left here is at an elevation of 57 feet, and then we slope up to an elevation at 58.5 at the highest point of the walkout. This is just a sketchy overlay of what the previous proposal would have looked like with the squared off head house up there. And of course, we are proposing to remove the railings beyond the 10-foot walkway required for the condensers. And then this is a view looking backwards towards the condensers. We'd just be removing the railings from about here to the left. This is a picture as of Friday from the other side of Alpine Street. I'd just like to draw your attention to the planters that are on the 2nd floor terrace here. We did box them out and add planters above the top to provide more privacy to the decks here and more privacy to the streetscape. And then this is just what that looks like from the 2nd floor terrace there, which is more consistent with the approved plans.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
This is Susan. What you're showing right now is not what was originally approved, right? Are these the planters you're putting in now as? Yeah, now these are the new planters. This isn't what was approved, right?
These are the new planters. I'll switch over to a PDF. And this here is what was originally approved. I'll zoom in on the top left. So what we're showing now, what was originally approved was more of a solid wall here. And then
Right.
what we're showing now is more consistent with that than what we had initially presented to you.
But that wall that was supposedly there, originally planned,
Mhm.
you didn't put planter boxes in that, did you?
No, we did. So the original proposal did have planters with a solid wall.
With the solid wall?
Right,
And the planter box sat right in the wall?
that's correct.
And now you want to do what?
And that's what we're showing for the second floor planters now. So there would be no change at the second level. The changes would occur at the fourth floor.
There are changes up above.
Right. I just wanted to bring that to your attention because it has been a point of contention with the abutters. And that's something that we've been going back and forth with them. And we feel that we've worked it out and it is in line with the original approval.
Yeah, you may have seen the emails from one of the abutters requesting the planters on the second and the fourth floor balconies, and so we're just trying to, do that. Sorry, Evan.
I understand that, but I want to make sure I'm looking at
Right.
what I'm going to approve. So the ones here on the second floor, that's fine, I believe. We'll check with the rest of the board as we go forward. But then the next couple of levels, why aren't we being consistent with that? What was the reason? Refresh my memory.
So on the fourth floor level, let me go to what we're proposing now. So the fourth floor level, we have the railings on top of the parapet, and then we have planters spaced evenly behind the railing there. And the intention is to have plants within those planters that would be up to the railing height.
Okay. And we're asking the owners of the condos to maintain their planters.
Yes, Madam Chair, this is Adam Dash. I actually took the liberty over the last few days of drafting some conditions to put in the condo documents because we are drafting the condo documents for the applicant.
Yes.
And this would address these issues, the ones that are raised by the board and by the abutter. Number one would say all unit owners shall be responsible for maintaining and or replacing the planters on the second and fourth floor terraces. So that's the maintenance and replacement part. Number two would be all unit owners shall be responsible for keeping live plants in the planters on the second and fourth floor terraces because we don't want them just dirt. Number three deals with the roof, which says that no unit owners shall have access to the roof on top of the fourth floor, that's the tippy top roof, except for inspecting, repairing, maintaining, or replacing said roof and or the mechanicals and railings located on said roof, for removing snow, ice, leaves, branches, and debris from the roof, clearing and or cleaning gutters, downspouts, pipes, and other building elements, and for access related to appraisals and insurance purposes. And that was just to, I believe the neighbor had said they only wanted people going up there to service the mechanicals, but obviously you'd have to service the roof, you'd have to clear ice. I mean, there are other reasons to go up there to maintain, but it's all just maintenance. Yeah. And then lastly, we'd have one that just says, there shall be no recreational roof deck on top of the fourth floor. That was not our intent, but I know that everybody wants to be clear we're not doing that. As you saw, the roof is just a rubber membrane. There's no decking or anything that's going on up there. And actually, Evan can probably show you the plan maybe of how we're pulling in the railings to, if you have the roof plan, Evan, that we're pulling in the railings closer into the to the mechanicals so that it's actually entirely clear that there's no roof deck up there. I mean, and you can see there that the railings are being pulled in. Obviously, there's code requirements to walk around the mechanicals, and the mechanicals have to be railinged so that people don't fall off the roof. But other than that, it's clearly not a roof deck because there's nothing there other than mechanicals surrounded by railings, which I think was the request of the board last time, was to pull those railings in.
Okay, thank you.
So that we would put those 4 things in the condo documents, and you can condition them if you'd like. And I'm happy to provide Charlotte with a copy if she just wants to verbatim put them in to the conditions. But we're proposing those, which I think addresses the concerns of the neighbor. The neighbor also talked about the planters, but I think if you approve the plans showing the planters, then the planters are there. I don't need to put them in the condo docs because they'll be on the plan you approve.
Okay, thank you. You can continue, please.
That pretty much walks over all of the changes that we've made since the last time we spoke to you. If you want to make some comments.
Well, I'm trying to see what the big change is on that elevator addition that you folks made. My complaint was it's too massive for the area, and I want to know how you could bring it down. And I don't see that you did that. I just see that you've modified the head house, if you want to call it that, and you gave it a slant. But when you come down the street and you stand there in front of that building, your eyes go all the way up to where it is. And that wasn't in the original plan.
That's correct. It was not in the original plan. It was a hatch in the original plan. The elevator overrun obviously has to be there, but the stairwell went, instead of the stairs being a walkout onto the roof, the stairs went to a hatch to get to the roof. So since, as Evan showed on in the photograph where he'd put on there, I don't know, Evan, if you could pull that back, that it's not, there. I mean, it's actually not much taller than that. You can see we did take that gray area off since we last saw you, and the part that's off the most is the part by the edge of the building that you're going to see, because this is obviously far off the ground.
Okay. So that's your presentation for tonight?
Right, and then and I think a member of the board had suggested last time to wrap the material around there to so it wouldn't look like twin towers by it being 2 different colors, to sort of wrap it around there, and then we showed bringing it down. Obviously, it's the board's discretion how to go forward with this and what you'd like to see, but this was our thought based on the comments we got from last time.
Okay, so AV1B is your final alteration.
Yeah, and just keeping in mind that elevator overrun was part of the original approval. We're just talking about the staircase versus the staircase being a walkout versus just a hatch. That's the change that was made.
Okay. Okay. Yes, Josh Safdie, please.
Madam Chair, I have a few comments and questions. The first one is related to that hatch versus walkout. Do I understand correctly that the walkout as opposed to a hatch is necessitated by the fact that mechanicals were installed on the roof, whereas previously they weren't shown on the roof?
Yes, that's correct.
So if you don't get approval for this walkout head house, you would not be able to keep the mechanicals that have already been installed on the roof?
I'd have to dig into the building code. So I'm not sure.
So you're not sure whether it's just a question of ease or whether it's a code requirement?
I don't have the code reference readily available. I'm sorry.
There was a discussion. Yeah, there was a discussion last time about the mechanicals. I believe that Mr. Glover had corrected that I'm trying to find my notes from the last meeting. I have them right here, but that that there was discussion about the condensers being on the ground and that the roof was the place. My clients obviously weren't the applicant last time, so they weren't aware of that, but they were proved to be on the roof. And he thought that was to do with the neighbors not wanting them on the ground. They wanted them up on the roof. So the mechanicals being on the roof isn't a revision, that was approved. It's really how do you access them is the question at this point, I think. Does that sound correct, Keith?
Yes, and additionally, there's no place on the ground to put them. the existing building, which we built upon, pretty much hugs the property line, you know, to within, in some areas 2 feet, but most areas is almost on the property line. And based on how condensers need to be installed, there is no other place to put them but on the roof.
So
I don't, excuse
Can-
me, speaking, Adam, who's speaking with you?
That's Keith Glover from Après Ski LLC, the applicant. He was the
Good.
one who was there last time. Sorry.
Yeah, good, thank you. I'm sorry, I just want to make my notes. Go ahead, please.
So this is Josh again. For some reason, all of the other A100 drawings include an approved plan, previously approved, and the proposed, but we don't have the previously approved roof plan on A105. And I'm wondering why, because I think that would answer the question as to whether the condensers were approved in that location or not.
Right, that's because the original application had not included a roof plan. So there was nothing that was previously approved up there.
Okay, so then this may be a question for staff. I just don't know the rules here. It would seem to me like if condensers were going to be placed on that roof, it would need to be included in the record set of the previous approval.
This is Charlotte speaking. The original application was submitted, I believe, 2016, 2017. And submittal requirements were not always as clear or as closely followed as we try to enforce upon applicants today. So while it may have been ideal that if condensers were being proposed on the roof, that those were being shown, because the condensers are not necessarily a zoning issue, they're a building issue, we may not have pushed to get that information.
But the condensers require the presence of those railings on the top roof level, correct?
Yes, the condensers where they're placed require the railing.
And so if the approved set, which includes all 4 of the bird's eye views on AV2A and all the elevations, if the approved set doesn't show those railings, then we can't have condensers up there.
This is Charlotte speaking. Either condensers could not be up there, or the applicant would have needed to come back for a plan revision, which would either be determined to be, I mean, process is slightly different under new code and old code, but in essence, it is the same. They would have needed to come back for a plan revision, which either the board would have reviewed or staff would have reviewed it.
Right.
Yeah, it would have required a revision either way because it was not shown.
And then my last question is, I'm still confused about the photograph that we saw earlier of the planters and railing on the second floor. The approved set AV2A shows that planter and railing system as opaque. The photograph shows it as opaque, but AV1B, the proposed perspectives, does not show it as the way it was approved or the way that it's been built, which I understood from Evan's comments was the way that they want to do it. So it seems like the approved set doesn't actually reflect what the applicant wants to do in that location. Am I right about that?
So AV1A, which I have on my screen now, is the approved set, which showed the solid. What we most recently submitted to you, it had just included a railing, but between the time of submitting this and last Friday, the contractor constructed the solid planters as shown in this image here.
So what is it that the applicant is requesting?
We would like to proceed with a solid planter at the second floor terrace.
Okay, but the drawing set we have in front of us to approve tonight doesn't show that. It shows horizontal railings with spaced planters treated in the same way as the upper levels.
That's correct.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, so then it sounds like the records that we have in front of us is not fully reflective of what the applicant is requesting.
Yes, I would need to make a revision to that.
Okay. And then my last question is, on each page, there's a bubbled note that says list of changes, refer to accompanying narrative. Is that a reference to the narrative that we had the last time we reviewed this project?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, so that narrative had 12 items and this list of changes has 14. So I'm trying to understand what the difference is and hoping that I don't have to go through one by one and figure out which 2 items are new in this drawing set that don't have accompanying text in a narrative, because there are only 12 items in the narrative and 14 in the list in the drawing set.
Yeah, it might have also been that some of the smaller ones are grouped into one bullet point in the narrative, so that I don't know. Do you know, Evan, off the top of the head, what would that be? Because I know some of the bullet points had like some small stuff together.
Can
I
I
think
here too?
go ahead.
Regarding the planters, this is Keith Glover. Regarding the planters, after discussions with the neighbors, since this drawing was submitted, we had discussions with the neighbors who said to us, we want you to proceed with what was approved with the solid wall on the planters. So I'm not sure how the board works in terms of that, but we're not requesting that the planters look like this anymore. We went back to how the planters were, got the feedback from the neighbors and said, sure, that's how you would like it, and we'll do it that way. So what I'm looking at right now on the, I guess the left-hand side of the screen is we're not requesting that planter scheme anymore from the board. Does that clarify?
That clarifies it, but all of these discrepancies are incredibly frustrating to me, and I think they're emblematic of the continued problems with this project, right? You know, the decision to build the planters as opaque because the neighbor wanted it, right? That's not how this process works, and Jai's office certainly knows that, and Adam certainly knows that, right? The way the process works is you submit the drawings that you want to build, you get approval, and then you build them, right? At the very least, if it was already built and that's the way that the applicant wants the project to go, we should have a drawing set in front of us that reflects that.
I see.
So, Madam Chair, I feel, you know, there's a whole other conversation, which is the substantive one about the changes, and ignoring the fact of whether it was already been built or not. If this was put in front of us in the proper order, would we approve them, right? But I don't feel like we're even at that point yet, because we still have these inconsistencies in the drawing set, even after we made a point of insisting on having a clear set of drawings to review in time for this meeting when we met last time.
Thank you, Mr. Safdie. I agree with you wholeheartedly, and your delivery is very eloquent, and I think you're explaining it. In order for us to go forward and make a educated decision on this proposal and taking all the different factors into play, you know, be it the head house, be it the planters, be it the fabric or wrapping the center piece there, it's not consistent. What's written is not what's in the picture, and it's not what's in front of us. I think you said it very well that, you brought out all these issues, be it the condensers on the roof, be it the planters, from the neighbors. So I think I want the opportunity to let the rest of the board speak so that the applicant can go forward, and perhaps we can give one more continuance, because it doesn't sound, I don't think we could all vote on this tonight in the affirmative and understand all the changes or not changes, or what's happened or what hasn't, or what was approved. So I'd like to go right now down the line, yes, to the board and have them speak. So, and I know, Mr. Dash, you're very good at this. Get all your notes and all your ducks in order, and maybe talk with your team and see what you can do. Ann Brockelman had her hand up. Ann, would you like to go next?
Sure.
Thank you, Josh.
I guess the last thing I'd say about that is I'm surprised and quite shocked that the builder continued to build the specific area that is under contention while we're still in the hearing process. So that's, I think that changes our view of, well, we inherited this project and it wasn't built correctly, but you're continuing to make changes to the exact areas that are being deliberated. So that's a little shocking to me. But I will comment on the second floor planters. If you look at the plans, but I am happy to see that it has now changed into an opaque planter. I'd like to know the width, if you have that, because in the drawings it shows it's quite a substantial built-in planter, and our plan cut convention is at 3 feet. So it shows that's quite a deep planter, which would allow a true shrubbery screen completely around the roof, so that shrubs could continue that wall, that privacy wall, like very nice. It could be very nicely done. If you go to A102, the presenter. Right on the left, that's a built-in condition, which would lead someone to believe that it's a really substantial planting area. You could have arborvitae, whatever. So I'd like to know what that width is. It looks like 3 feet, which is great. That's really, truly green. And then what you put up seems to be a knee wall, right? A wall railing height, and then some sort of base, and then fiberglass individual little planters put inside, which from the street, does have the same effect of an opaque rail height wall. So maybe, we're overreaching to, imagine this to be a truly, 8-foot green wall in the future. But I'd just like to understand the width, because that would still not be complying, right? So you would have to ask for de minimis. What is the width of that planter? In the photos, can we look again?
Right, so the approved, this was approximately 3 feet deep from the edge of the roof to the
Yeah,
back.
yeah.
And then right now, you can see this, the planters are approximately 2 feet.
Yeah,
from
so
the edge
that's,
of the roof.
yeah. So again, from a zoning exterior view perspective, I know it's the same effect of having the privacy wall, because we would not have approved those individual planters, in front of a metal railing. But I just think it's unfortunate, or I'm sad that what you end up inside the plant material is just not going to be as much. Because you go back to those fiberglass planters again, they're just smaller. Yeah, you can have annuals. There you go. It looks nice, but it's not the same as a wall of arborvitae or bamboo or something, right? Which the previous plan suggested. So that's maybe 18 inches. I understand you're fixing what you can, but I'll leave that there. if we can go to the roof plan, I have a question, the top roof. So what is the code for railing? Is that 10 feet code mandated? Beyond service area, or is it best practice, OSHA? What is that?
It's fall protection. I don't have the code reference in front of me.
But the extent of it, that's my, or maybe it's not even needed at all since it's not programmable, you know, usable space, occupiable space for building inhabitants. But I don't think I'm comfortable removing the railing. Right now it goes all the way around, right? In
That's
the
correct.
photo, you had that photo of where you chop it back. So I don't appreciate being put in an uncomfortable position where the fix is, you know, less safe, and that's what we have to prove, even though we didn't ask for it to begin with, but still code compliant. Does everyone kind of see my point? I mean, no one's supposed to be up there, but you know, you're proposing to remove, and so it is less safe. Maintenance people should know what they're doing and not be, you know, hanging out beyond the railing.
So right now, excuse me, Ann, can I ask your clarification? I don't know if anybody else has it, but right now, this is a picture of current.
Yeah.
And that railing is going all the way around the whole perimeter of the roof on the very tippity top. Yes?
Is that right, architect?
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah.
And no one else is going to go up there except supposedly authorized mechanics or what have you. And they're saying we're thinking of cutting that shorter and bringing it across tighter, but still squaring off the work area, yes?
Well,
Just,
if you,
go ahead,
are you
Ann.
gonna connect the two sides, go straight across?
No,
You're
the
not,
intention
right?
is to just remove the railing around the perimeter.
Yeah, so it is less safe. So, you know,
Well, I think that was the original thought, was to have it go all the way around just in case someone had to go up there and deal with a hole in the rubber membrane, that they wouldn't be outside the railing area and have a
yes,
risk. So that was the feeling. I mean, I thought from last
agreed.
time, according to my notes, everybody
Okay.
felt like we should pull the railings closer into the condensers to avoid someone illicitly using it as a roof deck or some such thing, which was obviously doesn't look like a roof deck when you see that. So, but you know, we're happy to do that. But if you'd rather put the railings back around the edge, I mean, we felt it was safer to put them back around the edge for that reason, because no one's going. I mean, if there's ice and snow on the roof, like some of those winters we've had feet and feet of snow on these flat roofs, sometimes people have to go up there and shovel it off. And I would hate someone doing that on a slippery roof without a railing. That's all.
Yeah, I think by pulling back, I meant from the roof edge, and we didn't see a picture where the condensers were. They are on the roof edge. I thought you pull back an area where it's railing towards the center, so that looking up, it's not seen from the street. But it seems like you have to attach it to the parapet, or else you'd have to puncture your roof and find a way to support it in the middle of the rubber roof. It's just, you know, you've put us in a difficult position because there was no railing to begin with, and then now we have to prove a less safe condition as a compromise, and I just, it doesn't sit well with me. I guess I'll leave it at that because we're not going to decide today, and I'd like to hear other board members as well.
Okay, thank you, Ann. Catherine?
Hi. So I don't have architect training, and I'm not as great at looking at these plans, but so if the plan was always to put the condensers on the roof and not the ground, and if the code requires that there is some type of railing around where the condensers are, do these original drawings show any type of railing on the roof and I'm not seeing it?
Sorry. I think that's what I'm asking the architect, Catherine. I don't think the code necessarily requires a railing.
Okay.
For maintenance, I don't know, because it's not a roof deck occupiable, you know, but that's for the architect to check. that's why they're able to chop it back.
I see. 'Cause if it is, then you would think it would have been on the first set if it was contemplated that the condensers were going to be up there. So I think we would want some clarification on that. And as much as I want to agree with Anne on many things, I don't know that I agree that the change from a 3-foot planter to what to me looks like 12 inches to 18 is de minimis. The neighbors have made it pretty clear what they're looking for. I'm also shocked that construction continued on those. As a recommendation for what I heard for additions to the condo dock, I heard a requirement for live plants. I didn't hear any comment as to height or type of plant that should be included in the condo dock.
Yeah, we were just thinking that people, if they were having these exclusive use balcony areas with their planters, that they could garden with whatever they wanted to put in there. If they want pansies or they want bamboo, we weren't going to dictate what kind of plants they were going to plant, but I mean, we could.
I respect that, but I think if the goal was to maintain some sort of privacy, I mean, moss would be considered a live plant, and that's not going to get you anywhere.
Yeah.
I have a comment now. 2 of our board members have commented that the work is going on. Why is that?
Keith?
So based on what we got last time, which was a lot of anger for what we did, we went back and looked at what was approved and originally approved and started working on this.
Who's speaking?
My name's Keith Glover.
Okay, Keith, thank you. You know, for this process, you got to say who you are when you're speaking, because there's all different people, and we can't see you, you know?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
That's all right. Thank you for your patience. I'm sorry, continue, please.
So we went back and worked on the planters because we went back to what we had originally requested. The planters spaced out. We liked the way that looked. The neighbors said, no, we don't like the way it looks. So we said, well, let's just go back to the way it was originally approved. So we didn't think that this was going to be bothersome to the board, or else we certainly wouldn't have worked on it. We just thought that because it was approved in a certain way, that that we would go back to that, that we would build it that way. We didn't think that this was going, and then coming before the board again, we weren't requesting this. We were just sticking with the approved conditions. So we were trying to adhere to the originally approved conditions regarding the planters. We were not trying to do anything else. If anything, you could call it, we're withdrawing that request to have the planters spaced out the way we showed them in Evan's drawings there.
So Keith, this is Josh. Were you unaware, Keith, were you unaware that your architect's drawings were showing it this way?
Originally, we were, for the original meeting, for the original meeting we had with you, we were aware of that. However, the neighbors had asked us to change it. And not knowing that because we were reverting back to what was originally approved, we didn't feel we weren't adhering to. I'm having a hard time getting the words, but we didn't feel we were doing something wrong.
I think what Keith's trying to, I think what Keith's trying to say, this is Adam, is that they reverted, but then since the last hearing, the neighbors asked that they just go back to the original railing planter situation, so they just did. And they figured since that was originally approved, I'm not condoning it. I'm just saying since they felt like since it was originally approved, they were no longer seeking the change, that would be okay to do it. I understand to your point, Josh, earlier that we should have told you that that is a change. So.
Well, and did they, so did the client review this drawing set before the architect submitted it to us? Because it doesn't show what I understand the client wants. The client's decided I'm going to go back to the opaque planters and instructed the GC to build that, but the architect is still coming to us with the spaced out planter boxes like you see in AV 2B.
I understood that, and the problem is I haven't understood the protocol of the ZBA. It's not under, so in that regard, that was going, I didn't understand that was going to be a problem, saying to you, well, we don't want this change anymore. I didn't see that was going to be a problem. And now I understand that you want to see whatever it is we are withdrawing for approval. You want to see that in the plans that you're approving.
And it's not a question, yes, but just to be clear, it's not a question of some bizarre protocol that our board only follows. I mean, this is the fundamental nature of, a zoning application and a record set and a permit granting authority's ability to say, yes, you can do this. No, you can't do that. And it's not a question of protocol. It's just a question of clarity from the development team as to what they hope to build.
I've been building in the city a long time. I've never gone back to the ZBA before. Only had approval one time. I've never had to go back with changes. So this portion is new to me, and I apologize.
I have Elaine and Ian. Ian, you want to finish up, and then we'll go to Elaine?
Yes, thanks, Madam Chair. I just want to make sure we're clear. It's not accurate to say that you went back to what's in the plans and then the board didn't want it anymore. You still didn't, you built a hybrid, right, of what you felt should be okay to achieve the original plan. Because, personally, I was ready to tell you to just build what was originally in the plan, but that's not what you done. So the protocol would have been, hey, we have this railing, we know it's supposed to be opaque, so here's a hybrid fix where we're gonna build a wall in front of it, and then we're gonna raise the part up where the parapet is and then put shallower planters. Is that okay, board? Because it's not exactly what's in the plans. That's the protocol. So it's not that we didn't want you to build the original plans. You didn't. You did some kind of fix without asking us. So I think that protocol and architectural detailing issue is an important distinction that I hope you understand. Thank you.
Thank you. Elaine Severino?
Yes, I totally agree with what has been stated already. And it just seems like a lot of going back and forth. Well, we talked to the neighbors and the neighbors wanted this. We went back here, bypassing steps. I also, went back to the original condition number 1 from 2017. And if anything needed to be changed, any changes in the approved site plan or elevations, that needed to come back. But somehow along the line, a decision was made by someone to change that head house and have that thing be bigger and a larger mass, which I'm not in favor of at all. I realize you slanted the roof, you're trying to cut it back. It needs to be cut back more. And it's the neighborhood originally approved smaller on that roof, and it got bigger. And it just seems like lots of different changes happen, and there's not clarity about who should be doing what and who should be making the decision to do this. And we have done in past years a lot of work with Khalsa Design, and they have done some beautiful things in the city. And I admire a lot of their work. And I think that that Khalsa certainly knew that that head house had large change from the smaller to the much larger. I think they might have realized that that's a big change. That was not a little insignificant tweak of some sort. So it's just, this is so choppy, and we're getting a piece here and a piece here. Well, the neighbor said this, and we like this, and we thought we should have done this, and there's just chop, and I am still not happy with that large mass of wall and that large thing that is sitting on top of that building, which was not part of the original approval from our board or the neighbors.
Thank you, Elaine. Well, it seems, I mean, we could go round and round. I think we have to have a little list made up here of, you know, we're going back to the original plans that we were approved. And any alteration at this point should definitely go through the planning office. It's so much, you know, what's on this list, what was said at this meeting, what was said at the last meeting. It's just very disenchanting that you see, you work with a company for years and attorneys, and they've always been outstanding, and this project just fell apart. I feel, you know, I could ask for a raise of hands, but I'm not going to do that. I feel we don't have a clear picture of what we'd be voting on. Be it the head house, be it the railings, be it the planters, be it the condensers. And I'm sorry, I've been on the board a long time. There's been a lot of high rises going up. There's going to be a lot more in the city. And we're not going to start putting these extra elevator shafts and extra large, tall head houses on top of them for commercial, you know, to be working on the equipment. People work on the equipment all the time. You know, we have certain zoning, certain heights, TODs and what have you, and everybody's going forward now and adding more and more stuff on the roof. So I think we have to see some nice new plans with the condensers on the roof, the types of railings, the types of planters. I think you have to go back to the planning board. Our liaison, I believe, is Charlotte, and go back to the original plans that were approved. Yes, Catherine, let me let you speak.
Yes, Madam Chair. I have pulled from the 2017 ZBA case online on the Somerville website, and there's condition 8 that says locate transformers, and I'm just reading from this directly, locate transformers, heating and cooling systems, antennae, and the like, so they are not visible from the street. This may be accomplished, for example, by placing them behind the building, with enclosures behind the building, etc. The applicant proposes that mechanicals be housed within the ground floor or garage space. The not a mechanical, the elevator, I don't understand that phrasing, override on the top of the building will be minimally visible along the roof. So I feel like that's an important fact for us to think about.
And what condition was that?
This is on page 6. It's item 8 of, and I'm scrolling back to the top.
Oh,
it's the ZBA decision from 2016.
Yeah, I have it.
So it doesn't appear to me that perhaps there was a conversation or these condensers were contemplated with the initial decision.
Mr. Dent,
Yes.
is that Catherine?
Yes, I was just writing down what she was saying. I mean, yeah, obviously this is all, you know, unfortunately what happens when we kind of come in midstream, and this wasn't our original project, but not that that's an excuse, but we certainly can, I think, come back with a much cleaner, clearer situation because I think some of this is just getting confused, and I'm sorry for that. It shouldn't be. I'm just pulling up the condition number 8 that she was reading from.
No, she's not reading condition number 8. That's what I was checking out.
Oh, apologies.
Reading from the report. It was on page, where am I here? Excuse me. It's on page 8. I mean, page
Yeah.
6 of that report, number 8.
Gotcha.
Okay? Thank you for
Right,
that,
but
Kath.
no, thank you. Yeah, I mean, that's the discussion during the hearing. It's really the conditions at the end that
Sure.
ISD looks at and all that. But because it sounds like there was, I mean, look, I wasn't there. This wasn't my case, and my clients weren't handling it. But it sounds to me like there was a back and forth during the hearing process, and that it sounds like the neighbors had said they really don't want them on the ground, and so the decision was to put them up on the roof. And then obviously when you do that, then you've got to screen them and all that other stuff. I mean, they're not really visible. They are up. The building's pretty tall. I mean, they're up there.
Yeah, but
ISD,
because there, Adam, because they're up there, it's changing how they have to be approved. You know, when they're on the ground, then there's nothing on the roof, then you didn't need the railings, et cetera, et cetera. Now they're on the roof, you need the railings, you need the access, you're putting the elevator up. Just by moving those condensers, that's what altered so much of the roof and head house conversation. Am I right, board? Is that, we're on that page together? Yeah. So, you know, that's what it is. And this is what we're shocked about, that, you know this, and I'm sorry that Mr. Glover thinks that I was angry. I wasn't really angry. I was exasperated and disappointed because I'm so used to working with this team and you and stuff. But right there on page 8 of the August 16th, 2017 decision, any changes to the approved site plan or elevations that are not de minimis must receive SPGA approval. Whether or not a change is de minimis in nature must be determined by the planning office. So I think from tonight on, your team has got to go forward with that in mind. And if there's any question at all, just pick up the phone and they can call Charlotte in the office. Like I said, she's the liaison, and she'll be more than happy to work with you folks putting together your package for our next continues. I mean, at this point, I'm presuming you're going to continue with any comments, plans, and stuff, because it doesn't look great for tonight's approval.
Yeah, unless the board wanted to grant the smaller ones and hold the larger ones for later. But I'm seeing a no shaking head. I assume that would be the answer, but I'm just throwing it out there. But yeah, if that's the case, then I got that loud and clear. We need to clean this up a bit, it sounds like, and get it in a better place, because I want you to understand it and be happy with it. And that's...
You know, we're not trying to be spoilers. We want to have a nice, beautiful project. But part of the Zoning Board of Appeals in the city of Somerville is for us we have to look to the summer vision, to the neighbors, to the general, the quality of life for all these neighborhoods. And we have many, many different projects, different streets. So we've got to work through this stuff and make it right. And just because somebody did it doesn't mean it has to stay.
Understood. I'm not disagreeing with you, and I think you're being eminently reasonable and patient with this. I find this a little frustrating on my end as well. So I would,
because I know how you operate. So let me ask one more question of the board. Yes, Josh, that's what I was going to ask. Because maybe everything we're going to say before we go forward. Josh, please.
Well, I just wanted to get back to Catherine's point, because I think it's an important one. It seems that the heating and cooling systems, well, the applicant proposed that mechanicals be housed within the ground floor garage space. And we have a requirement that they not be visible from the street. So, I mean, Adam, you said they're pretty far up there, but, you know, when I look at the architect's renderings, for example, on AV3, I can certainly see in the right-hand image, I can certainly see the railing that's been installed, as far as I can tell from the photograph, directly in front of the equipment up there. And so I'm not convinced that they're not visible from the street.
I think the railing might be visible, to your point. I don't know if the mechanicals are, but
Well, but the mechanicals are right up against the railing. And in that photograph, the right-hand rendering that we see now on AV3, the railing is certainly visible. And when we saw a photograph of what's already been constructed, the mechanicals seem like they're hard up against that railing. So I think we would need to ascertain whether that's another requested change of the either 12 or 14, I'm not sure which requested changes the applicant is coming to us with.
I guess, Evan, are the mechanicals, which facade are they up against? Or
Right.
closest to?
Josh is talking about this area here.
No, I see that. Oh, I see that. And that's where they are on the sort of the right side. Like,
Evan, can you show the photo you have of that side of the building from the street?
Yeah, right there.
right, but where on the building am I looking right now?
Right in the location that Evan, yeah, right there.
That's why I said on the right side of the building. Gotcha.
Evan, can you show the photo of that wall that you took? No, yes, no, almost. You have a photo of that wall.
It's the first one.
Yeah, so you cannot see the mechanic, you can see the railings, but you cannot see the mechanicals.
Yeah, I think Josh's point was you can see the railings too. So that's,
Well, no, my point also is that it's true, you can't see the mechanicals in this photograph from right up against the building, assuming the mechanicals were installed when this photograph went in.
Yes,
But I mean, it doesn't, the condition doesn't say they shall not be visible when you're right up against the building. It says they shall not be visible from the street. Right, so I mean, the architect's rendering, which is back from the, closer sort of where the bike path crosses, suggests that they absolutely would be visible from the street.
but
I think we need-
this photo where he's on the street, they're not visible.
In one location on the street, they're not visible.
Okay, okay, I see what you're saying. We could go to, that's Albion Street behind it and see if they're visible from there.
Yep, or further, or further down Alpine, closer to, is that Cedar that's crossing there?
Cedar.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, he's backed up into the parking lot, it looks like. I mean, that's where it seems like this photo's taken. That parking lot, what is that, where the Chamber of Commerce is?
That's 2 Alpine.
So that's pretty close to Cedar Street. But we can take photos from those positions.
Well, I think we just, that would be helpful to understand whether that condition has been followed or whether if it hasn't been followed, then as an applicant, you'll have to decide whether you want to ask us to consider, loosening that condition or whether you want to relocate the mechanicals.
I guess the other question would be, to Elaine's point regarding the stairwell walkout part up there. Is that the general gist of the board, or is the sort of the hybrid that we have there with the tilt and wrapping the material around sufficient? Just trying to get some note to come back with next time.
Elaine? Adam's asking you that.
No, I'm just asking the rest of the board. I heard what Elaine said. Yeah.
Yes. Ian Brockelman's hands up.
I think we'd like you to look up the code clearly as well, just to understand, is roof hatch compliant? Is it a walkout stair? And then the railing, right? There were a few questions just so that we get the full picture of the context, you know, the building code within our deliberations. That would be great. And then while we're on that photo, I want to call everyone's attention to the opaque planters on the right and the left, or that they built. You see on the far right, if someone could point to it.
Yep.
Yeah, there, and then the left. Yep, so that's what was built, and it seemed like that was a neighbor request. So, you know, I just want to share honestly, full disclosure, I'm a bit on the fence with the fourth floor railing. So if we were to consider the neighbors, you know, Pat Dugan's 3 bullets, she also said privacy planters on the fourth floor as well. So I don't think the proposed 50% openness, you know, you planter every, it's kind of like planter open in the plan, right? I don't think that it achieves the privacy that we would want. The opaque railing does. But when you do it, it does make the height, the building massing look taller. So I'm a bit torn with that. So imagine the opaque, right? You're doing the same fix where you put a solid wall in front of the railing, the exact same detail as before. But then now the building looks taller. So I wonder if the architect could, you know, brainstorm on that as well. I don't know.
But Ann, part of the problem too is that roof deck has been like tripled in size and pushed out to the
Yes.
building edge, right?
Yeah,
When
you
you
can
look
always go
back at the renderings.
There's no problem if you go back to the original plan, right? Which is the roof deck not going to the edge. Even if you wrapped it around, but not going to the edge, and then you could have the opaque railing, and then you wouldn't see it, right? The top of the cornice would be the perceived height of the fourth floor. So I just wanted to make sure we discuss that, or that's the board and the architect mull that over in the next 2 weeks or something, because I'm not sure.
Okay,
Or
we
maybe
can
we would have built something already by next week.
Thank you, Ann. Elaine had your hand up?
Yes, I just had a question about the planters being larger, and I heard possible small trees or arborvitaes, which can get pretty dense. Also do provide a lot of privacy. Also, it also comes with quite a bit of weight. So I just consider or think about the weight that some of these trees hold as far as safety, that nothing collapses. And I think Adam mentioned when the condos would be sold, that they would like it, which should be enforced or commented in the condo docs, that these planters be kept with live planting material. And you never know. I'm a gardener. I'm a member, and you've heard me say this many times, of the Somerville Garden Club. I love all that stuff. But I have friends that say, oh, dear Lord, how could you be bothered with that? That's a lot of work. You might get somebody in these condos that says, I am not into this. I don't do gardening. That's why I moved into a condo. Somebody else has to take care of this. So I was just wondering, who are the enforcers? You know, do we have the planting police of that building? So who, would somebody in another different condo care if somebody did or did not maintain the plants? As I go around the city, I do see a lot of dead things up on decks that at one time used to be alive. I maintain dead things in my yard and take them out and replace them with live things, but not everybody's into that.
Yeah, this is Adam. Understood. I'm not into that, but yeah, the condo documents would have that. The condo trust can enforce the rules in the condo documents, and that's why I was also suggesting that these could be put into the zoning decision as conditions, and that way the city could enforce them as well. That's why I was drafting them, so that then they could, whatever gets put in the conditions, I will put in the condo docs. And that way anybody buying the units Also, they review the condo documents before they buy, and when they see that, they'll know the deal is they have to keep the plants, and if they're not going to do it, then maybe they don't buy the unit.
I don't think the city has the power to maintain and police anything like that. Well, you know, where the city would have the power to do that. We just don't have people that are able to run around and say, oh, wow, look up there. All those arborvitaes died. Well, we don't have the ability or the manpower in the city to do that.
Oh, they definitely don't have the manpower to go around and find them, but neighbors, particularly the folks who are asking for these planters to be done there, would report it. And I can tell you ISD has certainly gone after some people, some clients I've ended up having to represent because they violated this or that. And ISD sends a notice, and then they raid the place, and then they take you to court, and it becomes a whole big thing. So they definitely can enforce it. I agree with you, they don't drive around looking for plants, but generally speaking, the neighbors will report something like that. Just like if someone was using the roof as a roof deck, I would guarantee you a neighbor's going to call 311 and complain. And then the city would have the ability to enforce it if it were in the zoning decision. That would get recorded at the Registry of Deeds.
I have
Just take a look as you drive around the city, or as I do often, we all do, just even doing site visits or just errands, and just notice how many grills are up on decks. And I mean, such violation. And I don't think the fire department has the manpower to cite everyone who has grills on their decks.
I have a comment to piggyback on what Elaine's saying about the plants and stuff. I love gardening myself, and I've learned that Mother Nature isn't always kind. It's too hot, it's too cold, it's too sunny, it's too windy. I think this is getting to be a big deal about these planters. I think that you folks have got to get some sort of a landscape architect on board, as if you had grounds that they were going to be planting. These decks, and like Elaine's saying, if you put something too big with these winds we've been having and these storms, so there's got to be a fine line, and somebody who's familiar with this, our New England and our weather and Mother Nature, take a little peek at that and advise the team or the people who end up buying these condos a little bit of a guideline of what size plantings to put in there and what to put in there. Are they annuals? Are they perennials? Aphrodite's get to be monstrous. You'd have to get dwarf type plants. So in order to piggyback on what Elaine said, I think somebody, Adam, you got to take a peek at that, because you don't want anybody getting hurt down the line. That's really not our purview, what they're putting in there. Right now we're concerned with the planters and the railings because of the plans. So, but whatever goes in them, you guys better check it out, because you could have some real problems, especially with blowing stuff and glass. I think, who had the hand up? Was it Catherine? Catherine, no. Ian, everybody's all set?
I was just going to speak to who can enforce, but Adam covered that very nicely.
Thank you, Catherine. So I think, Mr. Dash, do you want to just go down your little list of what you're going to check out and let the board see if we caught everything for you? Would you like to do that?
Oh, that would be most excellent. Thank you. Yes, one would be the stair, I guess overrun. It's not the elevator overrun, but with the stairs, the stair tower, for lack of a better word, and whether, because it was a hatch on the original approval, now we're showing a walkout. We chopped it down, and then what's the style that we're going to be doing here? More than the chop down is what I've heard. Because the stairs have to have a certain head height as you turn and go up the stairs, I guess the architect will have to see how much lower he can lower that, if at all. That's one issue, stair tower height. Second would be stair tower cladding. If in fact the stair tower does not go back to a hatch, do you still want us to wrap the material around as we were just showing in the revised plans or not?
Can you put that up? So our option is have it all one like that?
I think that was the request from the board from at least somebody on the board last time, because we had sort of two colors, and it looked like twin towers, someone said, and the idea was to wrap it around like that to make it look like one thing instead of two things. We can do that.
I personally, and I want the board to weigh in this because I don't want to waste your time, I think that's what makes it look so big, is because it's of one color. I thought before, either when you had it divided with green on one side, was it, or some other fabric?
It was the green screen coming up.
Yeah, that was that's the revision. That was the original revision plan that we'd filed with you back on August 4th.
And is that's a living, breathing plant?
It would be Boston ivy climbing up the CMU.
Yes, you may
Okay.
recall that the original approval did not allow the ivy to go up the top of the tower. So one of the revisions we were seeking of the 12 was to allow the ivy to go up because that felt like a better thing, a good thing, not a bad thing.
Something for me. I thought ivy went dormant come the end of fall, and
No.
it doesn't come alive again until,
No,
no, what's Elaine shaking her head?
no, it doesn't happen. It's an evergreen.
It's an evergreen.
It does.
Absolute, then I like it. I think it cuts that visual down. I don't know if anybody else, what do you all think before they go forward? We're trying to collaborate here so they don't have to go back and forth, back and forth. What do you like best?
I don't have a preference.
No preference. Ian
Yeah,
Brockelman.
no, I suggested wrapping it to unify, but then I appreciate seeing the rendering, but at this point, I really don't know.
Okay, Elaine,
I like the green. It's green and plants, and I'll always be a vote for that. I like this rendering right here. But
I do.
still, it's very
Josh?
high on the top.
Ooh, it's high. That's what's the problem. It's too tall. Josh?
I find it hard to imagine that the ivy is going to grow all the way up that
Yeah.
height. And I
Oh,
don't
no.
think it's really going to read the way that it is rendered. So I would prefer it to be one material, and I would prefer the height of the two towers to be the same. I think that would help just minimize its presence. I mean,
Okay.
again, this is if we were to approve the addition of the stair head house.
Of course.
Right.
But you mean don't
Well-
have that notch step? Don't.
Yeah, I
step-
would rather have it be a single roof line, if you will, there. I think that would minimize its impact. Even though obviously it means making the whole thing slightly higher because you're going to have to default to the headroom requirement. But I think having it be the only sloped roof in the entire project and having it be two different heights just calls attention to it.
What we could do, I suppose, for next time is show both the hatch and the overrun tower and see which one you prefer.
Yeah, and see how much you can get off.
Yeah, and see if we can
Oh, it's
reduce
possible. Low as possible.
Right.
Okay.
All right. So those are those two things. The third has to do with the railings on the top roof. Was the feeling because we pulled them in, I thought that was the direction from last time, was to pull them in as tight as we could around the condensers. And yes, we can check the code on that to see how far they have to be, but does the feeling that putting them back to the edge of the roof for safety? I mean, people have to go up, there are roof drains on there that have to be cleared of debris from time to time. Someone's gonna have to go up on that roof every now and then to just maintain things. So if they're outside of the railings, we were originally thinking that was a bad thing. So we wanted the railings on the outside, even though I understand it's a change. I don't know why no one thought of the railings in the prior approval, but we weren't the team then. So it just seems to make no sense to not have railings because someone someday is going up on that roof to do something. So I guess what if you had direction on the railings somehow, we have to resolve that issue.
Anybody with the railings want to speak up for Adam? Ann?
Well, I think Ann,
Yeah.
I think Ann, well, I think I heard Ann say that when she said pull them back last meeting, she didn't mean remove half of them. She meant pull them back from the edge of the building so they would be less visible. It seems to me like it's going to be difficult to do that because you'd have to relocate all the mechanical equipment up there as well. But, you know, again, that gets back to the difficult position that we've been put in, right? Because if this was all just a drawing, just a paper project, wouldn't be a big deal, right? But we recognize that if we were to require that, that's going to be significant expense, right, to the applicant. So I think that's the difficult position we're put in. But I think the direction to pull it back was not to necessarily to remove half of it. It was to, have an offset from the building edge so that you just can't see as much of them or any of them.
We do that on
That's
the
right.
other side. I'm sorry.
And to check the code again,
Yeah.
if they're
Yes.
required.
Yeah. No, I have that. Yes, I have that note. But I guess what about pulling them in on the other three, all sides except for where those mechanicals are in that one little area on the right?
If you go to the roof plan, so this is Anne, connect them straight across. Or pull them back.
So now they're in that L shape. That's the railed area there in that L shape.
And there's nothing on the other side at all?
That's
On
correct.
the other side of the building?
Well, there's rubber roof, there's roof drains.
Oh, railings.
No railings. We took them because we showed them on the original plan on August 4th, but we pulled them in to just be that L around the condensers. We could have those railings go all the way around, but to Josh's point, pull them in from the roof edge, but just not where the fixed condensers are in that one location, if that helps. I mean, it
Yeah.
certainly takes care of 3 plus some of the fourth side.
Mhm. What does everybody think of that?
Well, and that's assuming that the condensers are going to stay there. I thought they were going to take a look about moving those condensers back to the original plan, which was down on the ground floor.
Well, there's no room on the yard to put condensers at all. I don't know how that, I think that even sounds like it got taken away even during the zoning hearing before, but again, I wasn't on that project at the time. That's why we're having a little trouble trying to figure out what happened the first time, because to Charlotte's point, some of the paperwork's not as complete as you would see today, and we weren't there.
Well, but the ZBA decision states on page 6 that the applicant proposes that mechanicals be housed within the ground floor garage space.
Condensers can't go inside the building.
That's Keith Glover for the record.
I'm sorry, this is Glover. Now, we weren't the original applicants, but condensers cannot go inside a building. They have to be outside.
Well, then it sounds like this is another item for which there needs to be a request to change it. And then we have to decide what's an appropriate change. Right, I mean, I'd say that's an error of the previous design team, but you bought the project with its approvals, right? I mean, we can't, you buy all of it, including mistakes like this. So if that's if because of mechanical code, that's an impossibility, that's a mistake that the previous approval process, has, that was included in the previous approval process. And, we can't just wave it away.
Right.
We could add like I said, we could add a revision to locate the condensers in this location and, and paper, and at least put that on the record properly so it can be properly addressed. That's doable.
Great, thank you.
So that adds to my list. That is 4. As far, let me see. Mechanical, the planters. I guess from all this back and forth, I'm getting a little confused on the planters, because I know we're trying to work with the neighbors, obviously, because they have to live with the building and they've been supportive, and the requests they're making are fairly reasonable. So with these planters, they asked us to do the opaque. The idea was to Ann's point, you're right. I mean, I think this is more of a hybrid. This is not a complete return to the original approval plan. Would you like us to seek a revision for the hybrid that we're showing there now, or would you want to go back to the original, or do you want us to continue with the August 4th with the open railings, although the neighbors don't want that, so we kind of don't really want to, I think, do that?
I like the original. And you like the original or the open ones?
This is the one that's really already built, second or fourth floor?
Well, I think it's both, the second and the fourth floor.
Can we see a picture, please?
Yeah, second floor, I guess I'm okay with that, although I complained about the width, right? The hybrid.
Yeah.
But the fourth floor, that's what I'm on the fence about.
Can you show the building itself with the second and fourth floor showing, please?
Well, and also the fourth floor isn't just it's not just a binary question. Are we going with open or closed?
I want to see what it's right now.
This is Evan from CALSA. In our next iteration, we can show you a few options with what we can do with the fourth floor here. As you mentioned, if we make it opaque, it'll make the building appear taller. So we'll show you what those options would look like.
But going back to the original, we need to reduce the roof deck.
That's
I'm
correct.
sorry, Gary's getting jumbled. Who's speaking?
Sorry, this
Somebody-
was Evan from CALSA Design, and then Anne replied to that.
Well, so Madam Chair, I'll just put it on the record. Somebody must have turned on a phone or something because there's now an echo that wasn't there
Yeah.
before. Now it's gone.
Okay.
I mean, for the record, I'm not in favor of the enlarged roof deck on the fourth floor, regardless of the railing type. I don't support the extension of it all the way around. I'd like to see it limited to how it was in the original plan.
Okay, I second that. And
I agree. If it was pulled back from the roof edge, right, then you wouldn't have the effect of it making the building taller.
right.
Um,
And what about leaving the condensers where they are for that one corner with the fencing there? Or do you want them to break everything in?
I mean, for me, again, if this was done in the proper order and it was just a drawing, I'd say, no, move them,
Right,
right? It's really difficult for me because I am an architect and I understand what construction costs and that it's really difficult for me to say, no, you got to move them now because they're already built. But that's the really difficult position that we've been put in that Ann referred to earlier.
and I think that's part of it too. We are sensitive to the applicant in the cost overruns on things that have to be changed or modified because they didn't work out. You know, we feel bad about that. It's frustrating for us because we don't like to operate like that.
No, I think you're being eminently fair. This is Adam. I mean, I'm not disagreeing with you on some of these things. We're obviously, like I said, we didn't get the original approval, nor did we actually start the construction. We took this over midstream. To Josh's point, that's our problem. I get that. But, you know, there are some of these revisions we're coming to see you, we didn't even do. I mean, some of these were there when we took the project over and we're just trying to go back and paper over things that someone else did. So, you know, whether that was correct or not correct, you know, we're stuck with it. But that's, you know, not all of these were things that Opry Ski LLC did. Some are,
Right.
some are not, just to be clear.
I guess, Adam, I hear that. I guess, Adam, I would want to know, well, I don't know, Madam Chair. We typically have tried not to factor in what does it actually cost. But, you know, there's a part of me that wants to know, like, what is the order of magnitude effort to move those condensers back 5 feet from the building edge? You know what I mean? You know, and I don't know if anyone can easily put a number on that and if it's even appropriate to be asking for it. But I do feel like that would influence, given where we are right now, that would influence, you know, how I feel if we could get an honest accounting of what it would take.
Yes, Evan, is that something that, or Keith, anyone could get a quote?
Yes, this is Evan from CALSA. We can talk with the GC to see if we can put a number together for that.
Okay, so we can do that.
And,
This is-
I'm sorry.
This is
Somebody
Charlotte speaking.
Yes,
I would just reiterate Josh's caution about taking into consideration what it costs when you're making your decision, because ultimately that is not one of the criteria. Like you are welcome to request that information, but I would just, for the record, emphasize that it should be given less weight than the design of the building.
Would you rescind that request, Josh, at this point, or knowing that now?
I mean, I think Charlotte's right. I'm trying to find a way out, but yeah, thank you, Charlotte. I mean, that's why I was saying I'm not even sure if it's appropriate, but yeah.
Well, it's
that's the
appropriate
whole,
to ask for. What you do with it is, what you do with it.
the two major items. That's why we don't want them to go forward and do any more work that's incurring time and money and stuff for them. I had it right there. And, this way, because we're so worried about the tower and we're worried about the condensers. That's, and we're not supposed to consider the money. We're supposed to be considering the correctness and the sticking to the original plan. So, all right, so you're gonna, I think, does anybody have anything else they want to tell Adam that he didn't cover? No, okay.
That was my list
And-
of those are 6 things now, adding the 4th floor deck.
Right.
And all the rest of the conditions, I think last time, the revisions you all said were minor and not a concern.
Yeah, the ones that, when I looked at your addendum to the application that you sent out, Adam, I mean, I even said it that night. Some of these, they just happened, but, maybe they can update this like Josh just said. We're talking 14 and there's 12, so maybe we can just line everything and let's all start anew, at the next meeting with clearer minds.
Yes.
Ann Brockelman has her hand up, and so does George. Ladies first, go ahead.
This might be minor. The architect could go back to the photo collage of the stair head house. I don't think I didn't fully understand what's going on there. Are you showing proposed or showing as built now?
So this is what's as built now, and this gray area is in theory, what we had previously presented to you with the squared off head house.
Now, if you went with what was the original?
Originally, it was a hatch.
On the floor.
This is Charlotte speaking. If I may interject briefly. Evan, I think it is your computer that is causing a lot of the feedback. So if you could just mute whenever you're not speaking, that would be much appreciated.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. Just
that worked.
Pointing that out.
Yeah, this is Adam, I guess. Yes, originally it was a hatch. It was lower than the, to the left where the elevator head house is. Yeah, there. That elevator head house was always on the approved plans, the elevator overrun. But to the right, there was a hatch where you would have pop a door and come out. That was what the board approved.
Right.
And so what obviously they wanted to do was have a walkout because it's easier to access the roof equipment by having a walkout. And they had a box, and then the board didn't like the box. So the idea was to cut it down like this. So you still have the height to come out, but yet down at the edge of the roof, it's lower. And it's only 2 feet higher than the elevator overrun there. So that was the proposal that changed from August 4th when we saw you, where it was a box, to today, where it's not a box, it's a slant. And I guess we're just trying to figure out where we go. If the slant doesn't work, I understood Elaine's point. Can you make it even smaller? There are, obviously height and code requirements for coming up a stair. We can only make it as low as a certain amount. So I don't know to Evan. Evan would have to look to see if it can get lower. It may just, to have a stair, cannot get lower, in which case then the question is it a hatch or not? And Ann's question, I guess, was, does the code require it to be a walkout and not a hatch? And that's something we'll look at. So
Yeah,
again,
well, I get it. That little square beside the head house is the elevator override.
Yes.
Okay. Beside that is where the stairs are, the hatches. Is it stairs or a hatch?
Well, what we're showing there is stairs.
Okay.
It would
Is
stairs
that
to a walkout.
photograph or a rendering? This slanted elevator, slanted stair head house, is that a rendering or photograph? That's what I'm not getting.
I don't
This-
know. Evan took those. I've never been on the roof. Evan,
It's a photograph.
So it is sloped. Okay. Down. Okay, got it.
I think that sounds to me like that was a change since the last time we saw you, that they just went and did. I guess like Keith would have to tell me, but I've never been on the roof. I don't know what was there before or what's there now.
We built it slanted, and Evan was proposing that we square it off for a better look, but it was
Gotcha.
built slanted.
All right, so slant is what's there today then. All right, so when we came to you last time, we were proposing a square, and now we're just saying go to the slant that's there. If the original approval was the hatch, we'll check whether that meets code. Again, we didn't get the original approval. If the code doesn't allow for the hatch to get the access up there, I don't know why they would have proposed one in 2017, but we weren't the ones who did it. So we're
And
just
may
trying
I
to
ask
fix it.
another question?
Go
So
ahead.
I'd like to find out if you can take the line from the head house straight across to make like a, you know, it would be a hatch, I guess, but it would not be a full door. If that would be allowed. See where it
You
says,
want to make the head house shorter
yeah,
to
like a
match
V-
the elevator override.
yeah, if that's,
I was going to say, and
Take
what
that.
my next question is though, there are many roofs that are in buildings, we've approved it, that
Mhm.
it's a hatch with no head house, and they
Mhm.
flip open, there's a special door on it,
right,
and they flip open and they step out onto the roof.
right,
Why can't we have that?
yeah.
Well,
So it's
that was
kind
the
of a
original, yeah.
Well, this is Keith Glover again. I've built buildings like that. I have never liked those hatches. I personally don't like climbing up a ladder, a full story, and then opening up a hatch to get to a roof. We did this when we were when we were preparing the roof, you know, for everything, because we had lots of workmen going up there, and having a hatch there and having them climb, having them climb up. We just thought stairs are safer and easier and for access. And personally, you know, I'm at this point, unfortunately, over 60, and I just don't like climbing up ladders anymore.
Well,
So-
can you not have stairs instead of ladder and still open to a hatch?
Well, that's what we're looking into. And somewhere the GC was talking about the code. He doesn't think the code allows for stairs up to a hatch.
So you're gonna look
This is
into that?
Evan Tocalsa, if I may.
We're pretty sure
Uh,
stairs aren't allowed up to a hatch, that you have to stop the stairs where there's head height. And that's the reason for a ladder.
This is Evan from Calsa. The issue with the hatch and the stairs coming up is when we turn the landing, we wouldn't have the head height to get underneath the hatch if we were to lower the roof to be at the same level as the current roof.
This is Keith Glover again, because I was originally even asking, can we do a spiral staircase up to a hatch? That was our original thought. And basically a spiral staircase limits ability to bring equipment up and down and all that. So that was
Yeah,
not a
that's,
good
yeah,
idea.
I know, that probably wouldn't go at all.
Yeah.
Those spiral staircases, they're beautiful inside and stuff, but even now they're using them on some of the buildings as a second means of egress. And I can't believe that the fire department feel that they can work with that. With their equipment, their boots and everything, it's so difficult. Okay. Well, be creative, folks. That's all I can say. And let's start anew when we come back. Now, our next meeting, Charlotte, is September
22nd.
22nd. Okay. Might you guys be able to work on this till then?
I mean, that seems like enough time. Evan, you certainly could redraft the narrative if Evan can, show some additional plans.
And if you
Yeah.
can't, please have some consideration of the staff and pick up the phone and say, hey, we need more time. You know, we're going crazy here. We're being creative. We're trying to come up with some nice new ideas. we can't do the 22nd. Can we go to the next one? We're happy to do that.
No,
we have notice.
no, you've always been quite generous with that. I appreciate that. No, we certainly can do that. I mean, the 22nd is 3 weeks, like, and we could get it filed 2 weeks, a week in advance. That doesn't, I guess, just a question with the holiday for Evan, but we'll go back and we'll check into it.
There's a holiday in there. People have family stuff and kids are going back to school. So we're sensitive of your creative abilities and needing some time. We think this is very important. So if you're having trouble meeting that date, please let Charlotte know ahead of time so we can make our plans too.
Yeah, I think that's perfectly reasonable, yes.
Okay, so if everybody's all set, anybody have any closing comment? Everybody said shaking no.
Just-
Could we, Elaine?
Just when would all these new plans and pictures need to be to Charlotte so that we can get them in time, so that it gives them an idea of how much time they really have to work. It's not the meeting is 3 weeks away, but those plans have to be in earlier.
Right, that's
Yeah,
why I
so
was
we're-
saying 2 weeks, yeah.
16th.
Yeah,
This
the
is-
15th.
Them to us by the 16th.
This is Charlotte. The deadline for submission would be like end of day on Thursday, September 16th.
Right. And then you put your package together for us, so we have them by Friday night, and we can go to work and go out to the site and do our thing too.
Correct.
Exactly.
Is that good for everyone? Yes, yes. Okay. Everybody all set with that? Mr. Safdie, could you please make a motion?
Madam Chair, I move that we continue this case to our next regularly scheduled meeting.
Second,
Which is September 22nd.
So September 22nd.
And let the record show that the attorney and the staff are all in conjunction here with their new plans and what's required for the next meeting. Do I have a second, please?
second,
Seconded by Elaine Severino. All in favor of the matter of Alpine Street continuing till September 22nd, 2021, please say aye. Josh Safdie,
Aye.
and Elaine Severino,
aye.
Catherine Garavaglia,
Aye.
Ann Brockelman,
Aye.
Susan Fontano, aye. Let the record show it was 5 votes unanimous to continue till September 22nd. Thank you, everyone, for your patience and your input and creativity, and look forward to seeing you all on the 22nd.
Thank
Good
you.
night. Do I have to make a motion to adjourn the meeting? I'm sorry.
Motion
Yes,
to
Madam
adjourn.
Chair.
I'm sorry, Charlotte. So, could we have a motion, please, to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second,
Seconded by Elaine. All in favor, please say aye. Josh Safdie,
Aye.
Elaine Severino,
aye.
Ann Brockelman,
Aye.
Catherine Garavaglia,
Aye.
and Susan Fontano, aye. Thank you, everyone. Have a nice night. Stay dry.